I wasn't supposed to be home. That's the thing I keep coming back to. This all started because of a stupid charger. I'd left it behind the couch that morning, right before I left for my buddy Wes's cabin. Weekend trip. Guys, beers, no cell reception. Haley's idea, actually. Said I needed a break. She was supposed to be at a business seminar 2 hours north. All-day panels, networking, and terrible catered food, she joked. We kissed goodbye in the doorway. She even packed me snacks for the drive. But an hour in, somewhere outside of Boulder, I realized my phone was already in the red, and my charger, the only one that fit my ancient phone model, was still at the apartment. I thought about letting it die. Told myself I didn't need it, but something pulled me back. I can't even say why. I just turned the car around, told the guys I'd be a bit late, and headed home. It was supposed to be a pit stop. I left the engine running when I pulled into the garage. Didn't take off my jacket. Didn't even lock the door behind me. I jogged up the stairs, ready to grab the charger and head back out. But as soon as I opened the apartment door, I froze. At first, it wasn't any one thing. It was everything all at once. The place smelled different, richer, heavier. Like expensive cologne mixed with Haley's usual vanilla body spray. Our apartment was never messy, but it was never this carefully curated either. There were 2 wine glasses on the coffee table, both half drunk. One with a smudge of lipstick in a color Haley had never owned. Bright red. Too bold for her usual look. One glass was set closer to the couch and the other sat across from it, angled like someone had just put it down in the middle of a conversation. I took a step further in, and that's when I noticed the dampness in the air. The bathroom door was cracked open, steam still spilling out into the hallway like breath in winter air. The mirror was fogged. A towel hung haphazardly over the edge of the tub, not the way Haley ever left them. She always folded towels in thirds, said it was the hotel way. This one looked like it had been grabbed in a hurry, used by someone unfamiliar with her system. And then there was the jacket. It was draped across the armchair like it lived there. Not tossed carelessly, not folded away like a guest would. It was a man's jacket, navy, tailored, expensive. And I knew right away it wasn't mine. Haley's brother wouldn't leave something like that behind, and none of her coworkers, at least the ones I'd met, would have had a reason to be here while she was at a seminar. That jacket told me everything. More than the wine, more than the steam, more than the weird tension in the air. She wasn't supposed to be here. I wasn't supposed to be here. But we both were, and so was someone else, recently. For a moment, I just stood there, rooted to the spot, my hand still gripping the doorknob behind me. And then she appeared. Haley stepped into the hallway, barefoot, wrapped in a white robe I hadn't seen before. Not one of ours. Silk, maybe. Caught the light in a way that made her look like she'd stepped out of a catalog. Her hair was twisted into a loose bun, damp at the edges. Her skin was flushed, and she looked freshly showered. Her eyes widened for half a second when she saw me, just long enough for me to register the flicker of surprise before it disappeared behind that perfectly neutral expression she wore when she wanted to stay in control. "Lucas?" she said, voice calm, eyebrows lifting slightly. "What are you doing here?" My throat was dry. Forgot my charger. I watched her eyes move past me, to the door I hadn't closed behind me. Her lips parted like she was about to say something else. But then she shifted. "Oh, right. That makes sense." She paused. "I didn't think you'd be back." "Neither did I." She glanced toward the wine glasses, then back to me, and that's when she delivered it. "Cool as you please. My colleague from the seminar stopped by on the way back to Denver. He gave me a ride. We were going to carpool, but I changed my mind about staying overnight. He just left a few minutes ago. That's his jacket. I'll return it to him Monday." It was the way she said it, too fluid, too smooth. No stammering, no hesitation. She was prepared. "I see," I said. I didn't move. Haley crossed the living room slowly, the hem of the robe swishing against her knees. She picked up the 2 wine glasses, carried them to the kitchen like she was loading the dishwasher after a normal night. "You should have texted," she added, without looking at me. "I would have had your charger ready." I nodded. My eyes swept over the bathroom door again, then the jacket, then her. She wasn't nervous. Not visibly. But there was something mechanical about the way she moved. Like she was holding herself together with duct tape and rehearsed dialogue. I could have asked her questions. Could have said what was building in my chest. But I didn't. Not then. I walked past her to the couch, leaned down, and grabbed the charger from behind it. "I'll head out now," I said. "Okay," she replied, casual. Like I hadn't just walked in on something. I turned to leave, and then, almost as an afterthought, she added, "Have fun at Wes's." I didn't look back. I just left. The second the door clicked shut behind me, I felt something shift. Something irreversible. I didn't have hard proof. Not yet. But I knew. I knew in that deep, quiet way you know when something is over, long before it actually ends. And the thing that stuck with me the most wasn't what I saw, it was what I didn't see. No panic. No real surprise. Just calm, calculated explanations. Like she'd already written the script for the scene and was waiting for me to play my part. She didn't expect me to catch her. She just expected me to believe her. That was the first sign. And for a long time I tried to spin it too. That night I didn't drive to Wes's. I couldn't. I sat in my car in the parking garage for almost 20 minutes, hands on the steering wheel, engine humming. My charger lay on the passenger seat like some kind of cursed object, an innocent thing that opened the door to something I couldn't unsee. The jacket. The wine. The steam on the mirror. Haley's voice echoing, "He just left." I replayed that line on a loop. She was too calm. Too prepared. If she had truly been surprised to see me, if everything really was as innocent as she claimed, there would have been some natural reaction, confusion, panic, awkward laughter. But there wasn't. Just poise. A little too much of it. Still, I didn't storm in. I didn't rip the place apart looking for clues or grill her with questions. I drove 2 blocks, parked behind an all-night diner, and sat under a buzzing street lamp while the world moved on around me. That's when the timeline started piecing itself together. You know that feeling when you've had a jigsaw puzzle sitting half-finished on the table for months and suddenly one piece slides into place and then another and suddenly the picture's obvious? That was me. The signs had been there. God, they had been everywhere. I just hadn't wanted to see them. Like how she stopped letting me pick her up from work. It used to be her thing. I'd wait in the lot, she'd spot me from the office window and wave, and we'd grab takeout or go straight home. Then one day she said it stressed her out, said she never knew when meetings would run over. Fair enough. Except that excuse became permanent. I offered to wait. She said no. Too much pressure. I didn't argue. I wanted to trust her. Or the time she lost her fitness tracker. Said she left it in the gym locker room and it never turned up. She shrugged it off, not a big deal, she said. I wasn't using it much anyway. But that little black band was something she wore every day, even to bed. We used to compete over step counts like nerds. I bought her a replacement. She left it in the box. Then there were her phone habits. That change had been subtle. She used to scroll openly on the couch beside me, Instagram, Reddit, work emails. We'd even trade memes back and forth. But somewhere along the way, her screen started facing downward. Or she tilted away. Notifications got silenced. At first, I chalked it up to her job, new position, more stress, more confidentiality. But now I wasn't so sure. There were the late nights at the office. The ones where she came home with perfect hair and makeup like she'd just left a photo shoot instead of a spreadsheet. Had to meet with a client, she'd say. Grab drinks after. I remember one night in particular, she came in around 11, kicked off her heels and hugged me like she had something to prove. I smelled whiskey and cologne that wasn't mine. She said the bartender spilled a drink on her sleeve. I said nothing. We went to bed with her hair still smelling like a stranger. And our Friday takeout nights? Gone. Just phased out. It used to be our ritual. She'd order Thai, I'd pick up wings, we'd binge whatever show we were behind on. We'd sit with our feet tangled on the couch, still in work clothes, laughing with mouths full. Then one week, she said she wasn't feeling great. The next, she said she had to finish a report. The third, she was out networking. I started ordering alone. After a while, I stopped bothering. Weekends changed too. She was always busy. Always tired. She used to love little trips, drives to nowhere, hikes, flea markets. Then those were gone. She had to catch up on work or wasn't feeling social. I offered alternatives, movie marathons, puzzles, game nights. She smiled and said, maybe next weekend. That next weekend never came. I'd wake up on Sundays to an empty side of the bed and the smell of freshly brewed coffee. But she wouldn't be there. Sometimes she left a note, gone for a run, or brunch with coworkers. Other times, nothing. When I asked where she'd been, her answers got shorter. It was last minute. Didn't want to wake you. Just needed some air. There was this hollow quality to her tone. Like she wasn't talking to me anymore, just reciting lines to a faceless audience. And I played along. I nodded. I said, cool, hope it was fun. Because the truth was easier to ignore than confront. I even remember the last time we went grocery shopping together. It was a small thing, but it stuck. We were in the cereal aisle. She reached for a box of bran flakes, stuff she never ate. I laughed and said, who are you buying that for? She smiled, shrugged, and said, trying to be healthier. But she didn't eat a single bowl. 2 weeks later, I threw the unopened box away. Looking back, it wasn't one moment that undid us. It was death by 1,000 paper cuts. Tiny shifts that were easy to explain individually but impossible to ignore when stacked together. And the strangest part? I never stopped loving her. Even in the middle of that spiral, with suspicion clouding every memory, I kept hoping I was wrong. That she'd come home, toss her keys on the counter, and say, I've been so overwhelmed lately, I miss you. And that would be the end of it. A long hug, a cry, maybe a reset. But that didn't happen. Instead, we became roommates. Polite strangers who asked about the mail, texted grocery lists, and slept under the same roof but not in the same life. I stopped asking questions because I was afraid of the answers. I started telling myself stories, reasons why she was distant. She's stressed. It's just a phase. Every couple goes through this. But deep down, in the quiet part of my mind I avoided, I knew. I knew. That night, after the charger incident, I didn't go home. I didn't go to Wes's either. I just drove. Highway loops. Coffee stops. Side roads. Anywhere that wasn't my apartment. I replayed it all, the Friday nights, the phone, the jacket. I thought about the version of us that used to laugh until our faces hurt, the couple that danced barefoot in the kitchen. And I couldn't help but wonder, when did she stop being in love with me? Was there a specific day? A text she didn't answer? A kiss that didn't feel the same? Or had it all just decayed? By morning, I had driven 87 miles and didn't remember a single landmark. I parked near a lake just outside the city, sipped bad gas station coffee, and stared at the water until my eyes hurt. I knew I needed clarity. Not assumptions. Not what-ifs. Not gut feelings. The pattern was clear now. The pieces had locked into place. What I needed next was proof. I didn't tell anyone what I was planning. Not Wes, not my brother, not even the friend at work who once drunkenly told me he thought Haley was too put together to be real. I kept it to myself because part of me still hoped I wouldn't find anything. But another part, the part that had driven all night and sat in silence by a lake, knew that hoping wasn't enough anymore. I started small. Low effort. I asked Haley about her next trip. Oh, she said, distractedly sipping coffee. That marketing conference in Seattle next weekend. You remember. I told you already. She hadn't. But I nodded like she had. Same hotel? No, they changed it. Some boutique place closer to the venue. Less walking. She smiled at me across the table. She looked so normal. So familiar. Like the woman I used to wake up next to on Sunday mornings, still sleepy and warm. But that version of her was gone. What sat in front of me was an echo, sharp, polished, and controlled. Always controlled. I waited until she left. Watched her suitcase roll down the hallway, her ride already idling at the curb. She kissed me on the cheek, light and easy, like she didn't have secrets under her sleeve. Wish me luck, she said. Good luck, I replied, and I meant it. Not for the seminar. For the story she was trying to sell. Once she was gone, I moved fast. Before her trip, I had quietly installed mirroring software on her laptop. Nothing invasive. Just enough to sync a duplicate folder of her recent downloads and documents onto a hidden drive on mine. She barely used the computer at home anymore, always on her phone, but she did log in from time to time for work prep. And emails. Always the emails. The first sync didn't show much. A few PDFs. It wasn't until the second night of her seminar that something came through. It started with a hotel invoice. That boutique place she mentioned? It was real. Except she hadn't booked a standard queen. She'd reserved a king deluxe suite 2 nights, plus a late checkout. Then came the charges. In-room champagne. Spa services for 2. Dinner at the rooftop lounge. Her name and signature were on the bill, etched neatly at the bottom of the final page. I stared at it for a long time. That signature looked so familiar, yet in that moment it might as well have belonged to a stranger. But the final blow came the next morning. A batch of image files appeared in the synced folder, JPEGs embedded in emails she'd saved. I opened the first one and my stomach twisted. Haley. Sitting at the hotel's dimly lit bar. Her hair curled in soft waves, wearing the navy blue blouse I once told her made her look like a movie star. She was smiling. Not at the camera. At him. A man I didn't recognize. Early 30s, maybe? Crisp button-up shirt, expensive watch, hand resting casually on the table, right next to hers. Too close. Much too close. In the next photo, their hands touched. In the third, she leaned toward him, her head tilted in that way she used to when we were newly dating, like she was soaking him in. I clicked through them like a machine, robotic and numb. My pulse slowed and everything in me went quiet. Not panicked. Not even angry. Just hollow. There it was. Not speculation. Not guesswork. Evidence. Confirmation. I didn't slam the laptop shut. I didn't throw anything. I just sat there, letting the silence press against my ears. There was nothing left to argue. No version of the story she could twist. No angle I hadn't seen. I read the emails next. She hadn't used her main address. These were forwarded copies from a backup account, one I didn't even know existed. Her tone in them was soft. In asterisk mate. She told him she was looking forward to another quiet weekend. She joked about the minibar snacks. She even referenced our dog, my dog, saying he missed his walks with Uncle Jay. Uncle Jay. So he had a name. Probably a fake one. The emails didn't talk about love. They didn't mention me. But they were layered with a kind of emotional shorthand that said more than any direct confession could. He made her laugh. She sent him selfies. She saved their photos. She wasn't being reckless. She was being intentional. Every decision, every lie was deliberate. I thought back to the wine glasses on our table. The man's jacket slung over the armchair. The steam in the bathroom. I thought back to the way she looked at me that day, composed and unapologetic. Not surprised, just mildly inconvenienced by my presence. She didn't panic because she wasn't afraid. She'd already crossed whatever line there was to cross. I just hadn't caught up yet. Until now. And here's the strange thing, when you finally see the truth with full clarity, it's not a storm. It's not chaos. It's stillness. A kind of quiet that settles over you like dust in a room no one visits anymore. I sat in that quiet for hours. I don't even remember eating that day. I just moved through the apartment like a guest in someone else's life. I touched the edge of the couch where she always curled up with her laptop. I opened the drawer where we kept old postcards and ticket stubs. I looked at our framed picture from Maine, sunburnt and smiling, the ocean behind us. And I realized I didn't recognize the woman in the photo anymore. I didn't sleep much that night. When I did, my dreams were weird and jittery. I'd see her walking toward me in the hotel hallway, but when she turned around, it wasn't her face. I'd wake up disoriented, drenched in sweat, reaching for a woman who wasn't there anymore. The next morning, I opened the laptop again. Just to be sure. Same emails. Same images. Same time-stamped receipts. No hallucination. No overreaction. No denial. She was gone. Not physically, not yet, but emotionally, morally, truthfully. And she had been for a long time. I didn't confront her. I didn't send angry texts or demand explanations. I didn't want a performance. I wanted clarity, and now I had it. So I began planning my exit, not out of rage, but out of necessity. I backed up the files, encrypted them on a flash drive, and hid it inside the pages of an old novel in the guest room, just in case. I took *TS. I archived emails. Not because I wanted revenge, but because I needed to protect myself. I didn't know how messy things would get once I left. Then I cleaned the apartment. Not like a man unraveling, but like a man preparing. I folded laundry. Cleared the dishes. Took out the trash. Every action felt symbolic, like I was wiping away any version of the future where she and I still existed. By the time Sunday night rolled around, I was sitting in the same spot I'd found the charger days before, staring at the wall across from the couch, thinking about all the things I wouldn't say. She texted around 9. Haley, heading back early tomorrow. Might be home by noon. Smiley face? A smiley face. I stared at the screen for a long time. My thumb hovered over the keyboard, but I typed nothing. Because what was there to say? She was coming home to a man who already knew. And soon she'd learn what that silence really meant. I didn't wait for her to get home. By the time Haley's flight landed, my bags were already packed. 2 duffels. One with essentials, clothes, chargers, documents. The other with everything sentimental I still cared about. A few photos. My grandfather's watch. A folded note she wrote me once on hotel stationery that said, "You're my always." I almost left that last one behind. Almost. But I wanted the reminder. Not of what we had, but of how easy it was for people to lie when they felt safe. I didn't touch her things. Not out of courtesy. Out of detachment. I didn't want to move her makeup bag or smell her perfume while packing. I didn't want to open drawers and find pieces of her everywhere, scarves, notes, trinkets from cities she may or may not have really visited. I didn't want to have to guess which items were touched by him too. I just walked around her like she was already gone. There's a kind of grief that settles in your bones when you realize the future you planned has been quietly slipping away for months, maybe years, and you didn't even notice until the door was almost closed. I had no interest in shouting matches or teary apologies. No need to call her out or corner her into a confession I didn't need. I had the truth already. The proof was printed, timestamped, archived. It didn't need to be dramatized. I didn't want to hear her say sorry. I didn't want to see her cry. I wanted to vanish from the version of life she thought she could control. So I erased myself. It took 3 hours. I signed out of all shared accounts, streaming services, delivery apps, our grocery list platform. I logged out of the couple's budgeting spreadsheet we made together. I left her name on everything. Let her keep the logins, the bills, the apartment lease, the Netflix suggestions I helped train over 3 years of movie nights. She could keep it all. It wasn't mine anymore. Then came the photos. There's a kind of sacred pain in deleting memories. You don't realize how many versions of yourselves exist until you start going through them. Beach trips, birthdays, blurry selfies in hotel mirrors. I hovered over the trash icon for each one, thumb shaking. But I did it. Click. Gone. Click. Gone. By the time I reached the end, my phone felt lighter. My chest did too. I disabled shared location tracking. Removed my name from the smart home settings. Even turned off the alarm code I'd memorized years ago. I didn't just leave. I erased the idea of us from the systems we use to keep our lives stitched together. But I did leave one thing behind. I sat at the table with her business tote bag, sleek, black, structured. She always kept it packed and ready. Contracts, presentation notes, pens in neat loops, a highlighter clipped to the side pocket. It was her world, portable and polished. Untouchable. I unzipped the inner flap and slid in a small black ring box. The one she returned to the shelf 2 months ago when we passed it in a store. We don't need rings to prove anything, she'd said, smiling. And she was right. We didn't. But I bought it anyway. Quietly. I thought maybe when the tension passed, when she came back to me, when things felt right again, I'd surprise her. I kept it hidden in my sock drawer. Waiting. Now, it would be the only thing I'd leave behind. A symbol not of love, but of stillness. A message with no words, no conditions. Just a weight in her bag she wouldn't notice until the exact wrong moment. I pictured her opening it in some hotel lobby, maybe on her way to present quarterly figures to a client. I imagined her hand pausing, heart skipping, logic scrambling to explain how it got there. And the worst part? She'd know. She'd know I knew. She'd know I left without fanfare, without rage, without begging. Because sometimes silence is the loudest thing in the room. I left the apartment before noon. No note. No text. Just gone. I dropped the keys in the building's mail slot and didn't look back. The sun was blinding. The city felt unfamiliar, like a place I'd been dropped into instead of lived inside. Every corner, every street, every brick of that building had been part of us. Now it was just hers. I checked into a short-term rental across town. Sparse furniture, no personal touches, no memories. It was perfect. The next few days were quiet. Not peaceful, just quiet. The kind of quiet that stretches too long and forces you to sit with yourself. I didn't reach out to anyone. Not yet. I didn't want to explain, didn't want advice. I didn't want anyone asking me, "Are you okay?" Because the truth was, I didn't know. I just wasn't broken. Not yet. That surprised me. I imagined her walking in that door. Dropping her bag like always. Calling out for me. Maybe she'd notice the absence right away. Maybe not. Maybe she'd think I ran out to get groceries. Or assumed I was still sulking over something she wouldn't quite admit. I pictured her slowly realizing, no laptop, no shoes, no coat on the hook. No charger on the nightstand. Nothing. And then, hours later, maybe the next morning, maybe right before a pitch to a room full of strangers, she'd unzip her bag to grab a pen and find the box. I didn't want her devastated. I wanted her unsettled. I wanted the absence to echo. I wanted her to feel the silence like a weight she couldn't shake. The next week was spent unpairing everything, utilities, banks, the auto insurance we shared. The woman at the call center asked if Haley would be calling in later to confirm the account transfer. I said no. We're done, I told her. She paused. Do you want me to add a reason to the file? No, I said. Just remove me. I changed my number. Closed my social media. Not out of spite, but out of need. She had her world. She built one inside mine and invited someone else into it. I wasn't going to give her access to the new one I'd build from scratch. She texted once. 2 days after I left. Haley, where are you? I'm home. Are you okay? I didn't answer. She called 3 times. All went to voicemail. On the 4th day, she stopped. I don't know what she did with the ring box. Maybe she threw it in a drawer. Maybe she stared at it for hours. Maybe she buried it under emails and calendar invites and deadlines that suddenly felt too hard to meet. That was the point. Not to hurt her. To remind her. To remind her that betrayal doesn't always come with slammed doors or broken plates. Sometimes it comes with stillness. Sometimes it comes with no one left to fight with. And sometimes it shows up in the middle of your workday inside the bag you thought was only carrying your next promotion. It started with Haley calling my sister. 2 weeks had passed since I left. I hadn't spoken a word to her. Not a text, not a call, not a breadcrumb. I figured she might reach out to someone in my family, and if I'm honest, I was curious how long it would take. Turns out not long. My sister, Nina, told me later that it was a soft probe. That was the phrase she used. Haley didn't ask directly where I was, she just said she was worried and hadn't heard from me, which was laughable considering how often she used to tune me out when I was home. She kept it casual, Nina said. Tried to sound like she was just checking in. But I could tell something was off in her voice. I didn't blame Haley for trying. I even expected it. What I didn't expect was what came next. 3 days after Haley called my sister, a package arrived at her apartment. No return address. Just her name, typed cleanly on a white label. I imagined she opened it in her kitchen, expecting maybe a forgotten Amazon order or some leftover conference swag. But it wasn't anything she ordered. Inside was a plain white envelope and a USB drive. That's it. The envelope contained 2 things. A printout of a *T text messages from a number she thought was private and a still frame from a security camera. The photo showed her and the man from Seattle entering the hotel together. Clear faces. Her hand on his back. He was carrying her bag. The *T was worse. It was a message from her second phone. The one she swore was just for work. She had messaged him late at night, days before the trip. Haley, he's been distant. I don't think he suspects anything. Haley, but I don't care if he does. I'm not turning this down. Short. Sharp. Cold. Like a version of her I'd never met. One that didn't flinch. One that wasn't just lying to me, but dismissing me. Like I was a piece of clutter standing between her and what she really wanted. That second phone had always been a mystery. She said her company provided it when she got promoted. She kept it in her bag, barely touched it in front of me. I didn't even know the number. I hadn't dug into it before because I told myself trust mattered more. But someone else had. The envelope was signed in handwriting I recognized instantly, Marlo. Marlo had been my coworker once. Years ago. We weren't best friends, but we shared an office wall and enough stories for her to know Haley by name. We lost touch when she switched companies, but I remember the last time we grabbed coffee she mentioned seeing Haley at a seminar once, said she didn't realize we were together. She hadn't sounded curious then. Just surprised. Turns out she'd been watching. Not like a stalker. Not out of vengeance. But because she saw something and, unlike the others, chose to do something. When Haley opened that package, I don't know what she felt first, confusion, guilt, fear. But I do know this, she no longer had control over the story. That part was mine now. I heard from Nina again a few days later. She's trying to build a new narrative, she said. Reaching out to people. Testing which of us will bite. Apparently, Haley had started sending messages to mutual friends. Little check-ins. Requests for advice. Carefully worded confessions wrapped in self-pity. Not full admissions, just enough to paint herself as overwhelmed. As if she had simply been going through something and I, cold, distant, cruel, had shut down emotionally and walked out without explanation. But by then she didn't realize she was walking into a field already burned. Because Marlo hadn't stopped with just Haley. She sent copies of everything to me, yes, but also to people Haley had known longer than she'd known me. Her boss. Her mentor. A mutual friend she used to vent to about Lucas's weird moods. She didn't do it to destroy Haley. That's the part people don't understand. Marlo did it because, as she wrote in her cover letter, lies are most dangerous when they're dressed like logic. She wanted to make sure the people who heard Haley's side didn't only get her version. She wanted to balance the scales. And Haley? She panicked. I wasn't there to see it. But from what I heard later, she went quiet. She pulled back from her friend group. Missed a team meeting. Called in sick twice. She even reached out to my brother, someone she never had a real connection with, asking if I was safe. He didn't respond. Because by then they had all seen it. The photos. The receipts. The texts in her own words. They weren't angry. They weren't even shocked. But they were done cleaning up after her. Haley had always been good at rewriting history. She'd twist just enough truth into a situation to make herself sound like the one who was coping, surviving, trying. And in the past, people believed her. She was articulate, polished, tearfully composed when needed. She had a way of sounding right even when she wasn't. But this time she couldn't talk her way through it. There was nothing to spin. The silence of her allies said everything. Her brother told her he needed space. Her best friend stopped responding to her check-ins. One old coworker who used to defend her in every argument sent her a one-line message after seeing the footage: "You lied to everyone." I wasn't trying to turn people against her. I hadn't asked Marlo to do any of it. But she did what I couldn't. What I wouldn't. She told the truth when Haley wouldn't. And in doing so, she showed me something I hadn't expected to find. I wasn't crazy. I wasn't paranoid or insecure or too sensitive. I was just being played. And everyone who saw it knew. When you realize people knew something and said nothing at first, it hurts. You wonder how long they suspected. You wonder if they stayed quiet to protect her or to protect themselves. You wonder why no one thought you deserved the truth too. But then you realize silence isn't always complicity. Sometimes people stay quiet because they think it's not their place. Sometimes they're afraid of being wrong. Sometimes they wait for someone else to say it first. Marlo didn't wait. She didn't ask for permission. She just gave me what I needed to stop doubting myself. And that was more valuable than anything Haley ever gave me. That week, I got a final message from Haley. Just a few lines. "Haley, you left without saying goodbye. I'm not blaming you. I just want to understand what happens now. I don't know who sent those files. But if this is the end, I need to hear it from you." I read it once. Then again. I closed my phone and didn't reply. She didn't deserve an ending on her terms. She already had mine.